I've seen a flying saucer.
You've seen one?
Yes, definitely.
Unidentified aerial phenomena.
To cover up our mistakes.
I've met people who swear they've seen Bigfoot.
Join us for a journey into the obscure.
You are now listening to The Wow Pod.
All right, here we go. So, tonight, we're going to talk some scary Christmas action. And so we've got, I guess there's a little bit of scary Christmas from all over the world. Betsy's been looking into this. And
it's some terrifying stuff. Like, we have lived a very sheltered life. You know, we get the Santa Claus and the candy canes. Some of these poor kids, dang.
Well, they had to do something to keep them well behaved. They couldn't take away their cell phones in the whenevers. But anyways, yeah, and we've got some news stories. And I don't know, Betsy, do you want to splash the news stories in the middle, or do you want to kick off with them?
All right, I've got one that we can kick off with.
Okay.
Because I have a feeling that if anybody's going to be visiting in the form of Krampus or Black Peter or these other ones that we're going to be talking about, this guy has earned a visit from one of these terrible Christmas deities. So Florida.
Yes,
it's
Florida.
been a dry year for Florida. This coronavirus messed up Florida man big time. It put him underground. He's still doing things because he can't help himself, but we're just not hearing about it because COVID is taking up all of the air. COVID and the election have ruined Florida man.
Yes.
41-year-old Damian Allen Sims. So he's taking revenge on a 7-Eleven. And you know, I don't know if this is something he just has something kicking around his house. Perhaps he's been planning this revenge for some time. But according to the report, at approximately 1:29 a.m., he enters a 7-Eleven in St. Petersburg, Florida. Mm-hmm. And he's carrying a bucket that is filled to the brim with feces and urine. And he takes this bucket of human slurry, so to speak, and he just pours it on the floor of the convenience store. And it splashes up onto some of the merchandise. And he's arrested and charged, obviously, but all of this was in revenge because he had been arrested inside this 7-Eleven for trespassing in a previous incident. So I don't know if at that point he was like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to get a bucket. I mean, I don't know. I think there are other ways to plot your revenge. I mean, how far does he live from this 7-Eleven? Like, what are we talking? Did he lug this bucket like 6 blocks? I don't know, but
he looks like a happy customer. I like his. I don't know if the.
You like his jib?
I don't know if there's a barber shop in this particular police station that gives him that the haircut that makes him look like he combed his hair with a ravenous badger, but he's smiling. You gotta dig the smile.
This is his photo when they took him in, and he he seems to either be happy that his revenge worked or just happy that he was able to finally get rid of the bucket. It's hard to say.
So he had been tossed from that 7-Eleven before.
Correct. So it was a revenge after the manager kicked him out and he was given some trespassing tickets and warnings and such. So yeah, human feces and urine.
And so what he did was either he used a bucket and then walked down there with the sloshing bucket. I just picture the whole time you're like, oh, like you see it slosh up. Don't go over the lip. Don't go over the lip. Or if it's in his car, I'll bet he was real gentle on the brakes that day. Went inside and just poured it out on the pavement.
Now, there's a couple different reports on how he acquired the bucket full of slurry, and honestly, I don't know which is worse.
No, I know definitely what's worse is going to your friends and neighbors with a bucket saying,
"So
you want to do me a favor."
There's one report that states that he acquired it by fishing it out of porta potties.
Oh, that is by far worse.
It's worse if it's someone else's. Anyway,
I think it is.
It's a gross thought that he may have acquired a melting pot, so to speak, of whoever used the porta potty. I don't know. Some say it was his. Some say that what did he use to fish it out? Like, are we ladling this stuff out? The bucket won't fit down in there, obviously. So, I mean, you're having to scoop it with something and then put it in the bucket. I think it makes more sense for you to just squat and handle your business in the bucket, but
then you've got to,
perhaps he just wasn't thinking.
You've got to build up and store it for days and days and just
anyway, that's my weird news. I can't handle it. Listen, we don't pay 7-Eleven employees enough to deal with.
We don't pay anybody.
Crazy people coming in and pouring a slurry of human feces on the floor.
Who gets paid enough to do that?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. At that point, you take off your little name tag, you set it on the counter, you say it's been fun, I wish you the best of luck, and you just move on with your life. You walk out, wave goodbye.
Yeah.
Don't step in it on the way out.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so gross. It's so gross. It's so gross. I can't.
Oh,
can't handle it.
That is heinous. And I've had some pretty I've had some weird jobs. I mean, my history. I've had a couple of weird ones, and
you have had some strange jobs. Nothing that includes that, I pray, but
no, but I mean, I can. Yeah, this is story time for Christmas.
Yes.
And so tonight we want to drift into the Scary Land, Christmas Scary Land. So how should we run this? Should I start out with a creepy pasta?
Start out and tell one of those creepy pasta stories.
All right, I will tell this first one. All right. Story says, my name is Eli Rockford. I am currently 7 years old as I write this. I confide, liar. No 7-year-old knows the word confide. Sorry.
You are not 7.
Well, if he is, Doogie Howser. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even use the word confide. Do I? I probably don't.
Yeah, I know I don't. I confide in this journal something I can't tell my family because they would never believe me. I am often told that I am very smart for my age, hence the word confide, because I say and do things that most kids my age don't. But if I tell a strange story, no matter how hard I get them to believe me, my parents and siblings say it's just my imagination. Today, I looked out my window onto the street by our house and saw a man who looked like a shadow with horns. His eyes glowed orange, and seeing him scared me a lot. He was ringing a bunch of bells for something, but I just tried to ignore him and sleep. Then I heard a knock on the door. I went down to see who it was for Mommy and Daddy, but when I got to the door, someone stuck a card through our mail slot and ran off real quickly. The card had a picture of a monster who had bull legs, a tail, and horns on a scary-looking goat head. The goat head looked half human. I was so scared that it was the thing in the street, but I did not know what to do. I think I know what it is, but I hope I'm wrong. I showed the card to my dad, and he said it was Krampus. The bottom of the card said, Gross von Krampus. Daddy says that every year, Krampus punishes bad boys and girls on Christmas, but Santa gives good boys and good girls toys. So now I'm not so scared. I always get toys on Christmas, so I must be a good kid. I still don't tell him about the thing on the street. And that's the end of that story.
Krampus is terrifying.
I have to say,
once upon a Christmas Eve about 5 years ago, I wanted to go to the movies. And our dad, who thinks he's hilarious sometimes, told me that I should go see the new Christmas movie, Krampus. I did absolutely zero research. And Cody and I went to see Krampus. And I will tell you, it was super duper scary and not Christmassy at all. It was the worst Christmas movie ever Christmased. It was awful. It was super, super scary.
Yeah. I've never seen it.
I didn't watch any trailers. I did no preparation. I was like, oh, Krampus. And he's like, yeah, it's about the German folklore. He didn't say it's about
I'm sure Dad never went and
collects
saw it.
children in the middle of the night.
I'm sure Dad never went and watched that one. He doesn't go to movies often.
Yeah.
And
it was
I'm sure
awful.
maybe he thought it was like a real Krampus thing.
Well, I called him the following day and was like, do you have any idea what that show is? And he said, yeah. Can you imagine hearing the hooves on the roof and then he rings the bell and puts you inside his sack to eat you? I was like, seriously, Dad. I was looking for a Christmas movie. I was thinking it would be like, a feel-good date night Christmas movie. It was not. Krampus is not. So I'm going to cover a couple of traditional Christmas legends that are more for the naughty side of Christmas.
Yeah.
So if you misbehave, these are legends from, not just here, but other places. So I'm gonna start with one that we're all familiar with, and this I get behind. My kids love it. They wait for it every year, but it is kind of creepy. You ready?
Yes.
The Elf on the Shelf.
Ooh. Yeah.
Okay, so the Elf on the Shelf.
So the Elf on the Shelf is creepy? Like the little thing that right now is probably sitting on your countertop is creepy. Uh-oh. Betsy. Okay, everyone. It sounds like we lost Betsy, but we're spooling into the Elf on the Shelf. Are we still transmitting? Yes, we are. Okay. I will shoot her a message. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Well, this is fine podcasting, folks. Anyhow, so right now I know on her countertop there's probably an Elf on the Shelf, and her kids take Elf on the Shelf very seriously. They I was at the Christmas party and accidentally knocked it down, and I was sternly told by my other niece from my other sister, you better put that back because they take it seriously, and they'll think the elf moved or that I abused the elf or someone did. So I put it back and put its little hat on it. And yeah, sounds like Betsy may not be back, and she's got the full story for tonight. This is fantastic. Oh yeah, it's her internet. She just messaged me. It's her internet. So I am in this moment of stalling. I am going to talk about my news story. Okay, so I guess in Australia there was a big storm off the coast off the east coast, and I will go ahead and share this now. Let's see if it pulls it up. All right, perfect. So, days after a powerful storm ravaged Australia's eastern coast, footage of a man being enveloped by giant waves of sea foam surfaced on social media. The thick sea foam, there's a video, you can look this up. The sea foam, I guess in some places reach like 17 feet high. And then they go on, they talk to a scientist, like a biologist, and he says the biggest hazard, I suppose, is the sea snakes. There are a lot of sea snakes that get washed in from the ocean when these big waves come in. And it says you're very unlikely to be bitten by one, but if you do, they are pretty venomous. Now, here we go. And then I open up the sea snake stuff, and there's a Belcher's sea snake. It is #1 on the most venomous sea snake list. It is, oh, she's messaging me now. Waiting for you to let me in again. All right, but yeah, so imagine that sea foam comes in, and with that sea foam comes these most venomous ever sea snakes, the Belcher sea snakes. And Betsy is back. Betsy, I told my news story. I pulled it. It was a news story that was designated for you. But
designated for me. I think the wind is messing with our internet. So.
Oh, yeah. Anyhow, but so my story was about the giant waves in Australia, 17 feet tall waves. It killed 4 people. It's very sad, but they warn you that the waves can wash in sea snakes.
Oh, hell no.
So it's this foam. So the waves make this foam. It's frothy.
So you can't see them.
And they're swimming around in it. And I don't know what sea snakes do, with if they have gills or whatever they do. But they're the Belcher sea snake is the most venomous snake on earth.
Yeah. No. Put that on my list.
Yes.
My list of things that they're life rules, really. You don't swim with man-eating fish, and really, if there's sea foam that could possibly be hiding sea snakes, you just avoid it. It's easy. Easy.
All right, so we lost you at Elf on the Shelf right at the beginning of it, and I told them about how your children have an elf on the countertop that they're pretty protective over. So
yeah, they love the Elf on the Shelf, and
yes.
he does do some mischief, but he's pretty good.
Does he?
The next one comes from Germany, and it's called Belsnickel.
Well, what does the elf on the shelf do that's rambunctious?
Well, he toilet papered our Christmas tree.
Oh, did he now?
And then he took, last night he hid inside a mason jar and put a note that he was hiding from our dog's farts, which Tucker thinks is hilarious. But he does snow angels on the countertop of powdered sugar and yeah, he's a pretty fun elf. But I could see how it could be considered kind of a creepy thing to have a little elf that moves about while you're asleep.
So what's the what's the origins of the elf on the shelf?
So the elf on the shelf it's based on a book called The Elf on the Shelf, A Christmas Tradition. And it's a fairly new
So some
book.
just dude or lady just invented this thing, and because it's everywhere now.
Yeah, it took off like crazy because the book comes with an elf.
Oh.
And so it gives you the opportunity to kind of mimic what the elf does inside the book.
Okay.
So the next one comes from Germany, and it's called Belsnickel. And it's a creepy looking figure that's covered in patchworked rags as a way to keep his identity a secret. The rags are sometimes fur, sometimes old wool, and what he does is he carries a switch or a long thin stick, and he threatens the kids leading up to Christmas. He stops by the doors of households with children, and he threatens the misbehaving kids if they don't straighten up. They'll not get any presents, but instead a good beating from Belsnickel himself.
Really? So this guy shows up and whoops on you.
Yeah, he just straight up brings the switch. I used to tease my boys that if they weren't good at the babysitters, they would have to go be babysat by the witch at the end of Clark Street named Broomhilda. And I think they believed it well into their teens. So I get it. They were terrified.
So who's Broomhilda?
There wasn't one. I made her up.
Oh, just a completely made up.
Yeah. I had 3 rough boys, and I needed them to behave with the babysitters. So I just made her up. I was like, she's so mean. She'll put you in a closet all day long. You won't get any snacks.
Did you just drive him by a random house and?
Yeah, she lives there. Yeah, they were terrified. Terrified. I think one of them actually asked me as a teenager, "Do you know if she still lives there?" Like, I don't know. It's been a while. The next one comes from the Netherlands.
Okay.
And it's Zwart Piet, or Black Peter. And he may appear rather tame in theory because he brings sweets and presents to good little boys and girls. And he is a companion to Sinterklaas, or St. Nicholas. However, the insidiousness of Black Peter comes in the fact that he is a racial stereotype.
Well, hold on. Now, I'd always heard that he was a chimney sweep, which was why he looked like that.
Well, so Black in Peter's name comes from his occupation as a chimney sweep. The physical appearance says otherwise. He has black face makeup, exaggerated red lips, and thick Brillo-y hair.
So that is seriously,
So
it's
a racial stereotype.
So this is like if you were going to be a jerk and try to do the racist thing, this is exactly what you'd go for, and then try to
Exactly. In recent years, there's been this backlash towards towards Zwarte Piet, and the local government, has tried desperately to downplay his role in the winter celebrations, but he's very much a part of their folklore.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we gotta get him
outside
out of there.
of his appearance, it doesn't go into anything that he really does. I mean, the only thing that makes him scary is his appearance. So, anyway, the next one is 13 Yule Lads, and this is kind of the 12 days of Christmas. So the Yule Lads show up one at a time on the 13 days building up to Christmas Day, each staying 2 weeks. So the first lad arrives on December 12th, and he's the first to depart on Christmas Day. So they each stay 2 weeks and then leave one after the other. Now, they're mostly mischievous creatures.
They stay how long?
They each stay 12 days.
Okay. So when do they start showing up?
So they start showing up on the 13 days building up to Christmas Day. So they show up one each night, and then they start leaving after 12 days.
So you've got, by Christmas, you've got 12 jerks in your house.
And they're mischievous. So they're mischievous creatures, and they pull harmless pranks, mostly like slamming doors.
Are they like gnomes, kind of like?
Well, they're like trolls. And they eat the town's yogurt supply.
Oh well, I mean,
for some reason.
Is it that nasty ass yogurt without the flavoring in it?
Perhaps this is a way to explain why the yogurt runs out in December. I don't know. But as the story has become more modern, they come down from dwellings in the mountain instead of just showing up magically. And rather than pulling the regular prank or trick, they keep an eye on all the children and kidnap those who did not receive any new clothes during the season.
They kidnap the kids who don't get new clothes?
Yeah.
This sounds like this sounds like this was made up for parents. Like, your kids are nasty. You need to sort that out.
Yeah. So they keep an eye on all the children and kidnap those who did not receive any new clothes during the season so they can be eaten. So it started out that they ate the town's yogurt supply. Somehow we've ended up where they eat the kids that are nasty. I don't know how we got from point A to point B.
Maybe it's a fungus thing or a bacteria thing.
Perhaps because they like yogurt. Oh,
yeah.
Gross.
It's a Famunda yogurt.
Maybe it's the bacteria.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's rough.
The next one is terrifying.
All right.
If you look at the pictures of it, it's Knecht Ruprecht. And yeah. He is,
see if it'll play this little
scary
shindiggity while you talk.
So this is again from Germany. He's also known as the farmhand Rupert, and he more or less looks like
a goat man.
Yeah, like a goat. He's got a long beard looking thing. He's got a brown cloak and a staff. And what he does is he goes around and he asks the kids if they can pray. If they can, then they get this gingerbread, this awesome gingerbread. If they can't, he gives them useless junk.
Really?
And if they refuse, get this, he beats them with a bag of ashes.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, was he always a goat-looking man, or did he kind of morph into that as we needed more scary?
Well, in the beginning, it was said that he was kind of a demon, And I think he's kind of morphed into modern times to be more of, something that we would recognize or kids would recognize. Now, it's said that his whole shtick, the whole reason he does this, is so that children better remember the reason for the season. It's about baby Jesus. It's not about the changes in the season. See, a lot of these started out being pagan, and the Christians, when they started to move in, found that it was easier to be like, yeah, we believe in that too, but he does this for Jesus, instead of trying to get them to leave their folklore completely behind. I think they understood that it was an integral part of their culture, and so they tried to adapt it. So he went from being, a demon who kidnapped mean-spirited ones to beating them with a bag of ashes. I don't know what that signifies if they refuse to pray to remind them that it's the reason of the season is baby Jesus.
So it was kind of another one of those anti-pagan things.
Yeah, most of these have been twisted to include, Christian theology. So this next one is interesting. It is called the Perchton, and it is a dual-gendered spirit who comes out during the 12 days of Christmas. So that is December 25th to January 5th. So on one hand, we have the female, who's the beautiful Perchton, and on the other we have the male, who's the ugly Perchton. So the female is the giver of luck and gifts, while the other ugly beast, who looks similar to Krampus, and similarly is related to, the devil, or, kind of the alter ego of good, he punishes the bad. Now, what's most terrifying about the Perchton, this dual-gendered spirit, is that if it passes you, you can never be too sure which side you'll be met with. So
is it like half the face is good and half the face is bad, or is it
kind of front and back?
Oh, front and back.
Yeah, so you're not sure who you're going to come into, Are you going to walk up to the good side and he's going to give you treats? It's all wrapped in one.
Oh.
And they have festivals where they dress up as these terrifying creatures, and they chase children around, and they do parades, and they really just drive this home. Like, I want to have one. I think Grantsville needs a good Krampus.
A good scary festival.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be a good time. Get people to dress up like horned goat men and run around.
And then the next one, I had no idea, but werewolves.
Really?
So although we try to, limit, these type of lycanthropes to Halloween or, fiction, scary movies, they've been a part of Yuletide Horror Fest since the Middle Ages.
Really?
So the
werewolves
curse of the werewolf.
That's a part of like the Christmas stuff, huh?
Yeah. It's said that being born on December 25th, which is the day that is meant for, the Christ's birthday or the celebration of, is mocking to Jesus Christ. And so those born on that day must be punished.
Well, obviously it's their fault. I mean, why didn't the baby know? Hang on to the walls for a couple hours.
Close your legs. Can you imagine that poor woman in full labor? She's I mean, she's doing anything she can during the Middle Ages so that her baby is not mocking Jesus.
Well, the worst
And-
part is the community would treat that child poorly because of that.
Sure, ostracized.
And the child had no choice. That's where you lie. You just lie, move,
Yeah.
lie. No, he's born
Be
on the
like,
24th.
I had him the day before. Look at him, he's 2 days old.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Yeah. So, one of the few non-Germanic characters, again, Lord have mercy, I'm so thankful for my completely unadulterated childhood where I was able to just believe in Santa Claus. These guys are called Gryla, and it's Icelandic mythology.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a terrifying lady ogre who eats children. Because nothing says Merry Christmas like a terrifying lady ogre who eats kids.
Oh.
So in 1746, a decree was issued prohibiting the use of this Gryla, as they served no function other than to scare small children.
Well,
They were like, we must put this into law, you shithead parents. Quit telling this story.
yeah,
But they're terrifying.
that does look scary. They've got the picture we're showing. It looks like people in some kind of costume, pretty elaborate, big hunchback and big naughty
Yeah.
face and nose.
Yeah. Then, in Belgium and France, there is La Perrée Fouettade.
Oh, that just can't be scary if it's said in French.
It should just Perry Futard.
Is it that bad?
Yeah. His name means whipping father. And as you can guess, he brings some holiday cheer as well.
Oh, he comes
And-
around with the switch and
Yeah. So it's said that he began his life as an innkeeper, and then became a kidnapper, and then became a murderer.
there's a lot of kidnapping going on with this whole
I
Christmas
think
stuff.
it's maybe there was a lot of kidnapping and they were trying to explain it.
Do you think there was?
I don't know. Why would there be so much kidnapping? If nobody ever went missing, people would be like, well, then obviously I'm fine because nobody ever goes missing.
Hear me out real quick. What if, due to the winters and, it's colder, less food, children maybe get sick or don't get the nutrients they need and pass away? What if neighbors' parents tell their kids that this is what happened? I mean, it's horrible,
I don't know,
but
worse.
why would there be so much kidnapping in the winter?
I don't know. I don't know.
You think
Strangest. Normally, these types of things come up to explain away things that they could not otherwise explain away.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
But what if parents trapped in their house with them little bastards for half the winter so far are losing their minds and grasping at any straw to get those kids to behave?
Yeah, could be.
Something to think about.
So the story goes that while keeping his inn, so he was an innkeeper first, 3 rich boys on their way to a religious boarding school stop, and they stay at his inn. Now, he recognizes their wealth, likely by the way they were dressed or the way that, they spoke or perhaps they wrote. And La Pierre, along with his wife, decide to capture these young boys and murder the children by slitting their throats. And this was done to take their money. Now, I'm not sure why this seemed like a better idea than ransoming them to their wealthier parents. However, in this story, Saint Nick shows up and resurrects the boys. And seeing his power, the innkeeper repents and becomes Saint Nick's partner by becoming the official whipping boy of bad boys and girls.
All right. Good on you, Saint Nick, for the first part. But then you let this guy join your posse after he was such a little bastard.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Saint Nick, why do you have a posse?
Why do you need a posse? What happened to the reindeer?
Yeah, you've got Rudolph and Gandalf and Blitzen and Donner, Cupid, a couple other guys, and the elves.
So the scariest one, I think personally, just from the looks of it, is also German. These Germans, they ain't messing around. Krampus. Krampus comes from the Germanic root for claw, and it dates back long before the time of Christ. American kids never feared a lack of, presence and things, no matter what their behavioral tendencies were. However, in the old world, especially Germany, the German kids were taught that there was something much worse than just a lump of coal. That if they misbehaved, and sometimes it wasn't even misbehaved, but if they weren't well behaved, they weren't just beaten, they were tortured before being kidnapped and taken to the Krampus's lair, where they were beaten, tortured, and then eaten.
Man. And we got some, pulling up some pictures of this guy. Some of them look old-timey and cartoony, but some of them are pretty rough.
Yeah. He's like the ultimate Christmas demon. Now, the story goes, in some ways, it's told that Krampus is a demon, and he accompanies St. Nicholas on Christmas night. Now, Krampus Nacht happens on the 5th of December. And in other areas of Germany, it is told that Krampus Nacht is the night that the judgment happens, and that he arrives alone.
So on the 5th of December, he comes around, instead of a list on the night of the 24th, Krampus comes around, and I guess if you're left, you've been good.
So it's said that you can hear his bells, that he has goat-like fur, that he has really long tusks kind of on the side of his face and horns, and you'll hear his hooves. He's got these bowed legs. You'll hear his hooves. He doesn't necessarily have a sleigh. He just kind of blows in, and you'll hear him on the rooftops. Now, there will be 3 knocks at the door, and if you don't answer to, be taken, then he comes in through the chimney, through the windows, and he tortures you in your home in front of your parents. Then he stuffs you into a bag made of goat skin, and he takes you back to his lair. That's one version. The next version is that on the night of Krampusnacht, St. Nicholas meets with his hordes of demons. First of all, why have you got hordes of demons, St. Nicholas?
I mean, every saint, I guess, needs a horde of demons.
And he makes a decision December 5th on which one of these demons is going to be Krampus that year. And that night it is decided, and children everywhere, they start going through their records and they start looking at their year, and if they have, prayed enough, if they can repeat the 10 Commandments and all of those Christian things. And then Krampus goes with St. Nicholas the night of Christmas Eve, and they enter the home together. And it is decided inside the home if the child has been good or if he hasn't. And if Santa leaves a lump of coal, Krampus takes the kid. He's like waiting there, just super excited to see if Santa leaves a lump of coal.
So the coal is left for the parents the next morning?
So the parents wake up, and if the child is missing and there is a lump of coal, they know that their child has not been good enough, and Krampus has taken them.
So in this Krampus movie you saw, which Krampus did we get? Did we get
the first version? He didn't come with St. Nicholas.
Okay, the first one. We didn't get St. Nicholas's demon posse getting selected, and they're all, picking a team.
Nope. So the Krampus movie that came out 5 or 6 years ago is the original kind of folklore version, where Krampus just works on his own. He's like, listen, I decide if you're good or bad. If you're bad, you're delicious. And he just stuffs you in his bag, and he lures the kids to him with his bells. At one point in the movie, the kids are sitting and they're all waiting to go to bed, and a bell with a cookie on it drops down into the fireplace. And this little kid walks over, and as he grabs the cookie, a giant hook goes into his hand, and he's rocketed up the chimney and stuffed in the bag.
That was in that movie?
Yeah.
Did he eat little kids in the movie?
Yeah, that's a Christmas movie. Yeah.
Did any of the kids escape? Did they hatch a devilish plan? And like
No.
I'm picturing a paint tied to a rope, a can of paint with a trap, so that when Krampus came around the corner, it hit him in the face. He slipped on ice. Comical
It wasn't
slipping.
Home Alone Krampus. It was terrifying. I gobble up your kids because they didn't say their prayers.
Did they get Krampus at the end?
No.
So it was one of those no happy ending movies?
Correct.
Huh.
Yeah.
Outstanding. Well, that sounds like it's time for me to read another story. Good.
And to this day, they have these big parades in Germany where people put on these elaborate costumes and they snarl and shake their heads and wander the streets, scaring the kids. I don't know if it's brilliant or crazy, but it's terrifying.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. Well,
Yeah.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Now we have Jared has another story, and then we kind of have the latest kind of adaptation of Krampus.
Yeah, not the 5 years ago unhappy ending story.
That's right.
My family had just immigrated to this country. We had left our every earthly possession behind, but the memories and stories of our homeland followed us in our journey. Once we arrived, we immediately settled into the same ghetto that many others from our Eastern European village had. A decrepit row of 4-story slums along an alleyway. It was more sewer than street. Our father, during the few hours that he was home from the mill, said that we were better off here, but my sister and I missed the deep forests and the high mountains that we had played in only a short time ago. Even when I tried to imagine myself back at home, my real home, the noise of the city always broke through my thoughts and brought me back to the alleyway. My mother tried her best to remind us of our old life. Often, as my sister and I were crawling into the bed that we shared, she would tell us the stories. The same stories she said that her mother had told her. Some of the stories were exciting. Other made us laugh, but a few terrified us. The most awful story told of an evil one who, until the deepest part of winter, the most awful story told us of an evil one who, until the deepest part of, okay, this is awful, some awful writing, but until the deepest part of winter to kidnap naughty children. We shuddered as she told us of how it would torment children just like us. And sometimes
she's telling her kids this Christmas story.
Hey, I'm telling you, this is fantastic. And sometimes we would even pretend to fall asleep in the desperate hope that she would stop. You kids, the monster is real and it's telling you a story right now. But she always finished the story. Our father would often tell her not to fill our heads with such horrible things, that some tales from our homeland should remain there. Mother, though, mother is rough, would shake her head and quietly insist that it was dangerous to forget where we came from. Our lives continued like this for the next several months. I had believed that I would eventually come to see our forgotten alleyway as home. But its sense of foreignness persisted. In fact, it felt as though hardly anything had changed since we had arrived. Our lives had neither improved nor gotten worse, and I still felt like an unwanted stranger in my own neighborhood. The only thing that had changed was our behavior. My sister and I had recently begun to get in trouble more often. We never meant to hurt anyone. It was just that we had so little, and sometimes we had to steal if we wanted to eat that day. Usually our misdeeds were my sister's ideas, and I followed along. I guess one always looks up to the older sibling. I never believed that our petty crimes would ever have serious consequences, but looking back now, I can see that we were walking blindly down a dark path. I can even remember when things took an ominous turn. Ever since All Saints' Day, now All Saints' Day is November 1st.
Correct.
Ever since All Saints' Day, our mother had been warning us to be good little girls. She pleaded with us to stop our bad behavior. I remember her crying a lot. Early in December, my sister got caught stealing a piece of fruit, and I thought my mother's heart would break. She began to shake and pulled her rosary beads from her pocket. For the rest of the night, she clutched those beads tightly and desperately repeating her prayers. When I finally asked her what was wrong, she paused just long enough to glance the window and hissed, "He knows. He knows. It might be too late." I didn't know what she meant, but I was scared. My sister didn't seem to care. The days passed and the temperature dropped. It was the night before Christmas and snow had begun to fall. The heating had already gone out several times and the flickering lights threatened to go out as well. As we would be attending the sunrise mass the next morning, my father told my sister and I to go bathe. Suddenly my mother began shrieking for us not to be alone. I heard my father quickly move towards her and begin to try to comfort her with his deep, soft voice. I just managed started singing a sultry song to her. She quieted down some.
Row your boat.
Well, I was thinking more like some Marvin Gaye or something. She quieted down some, but still insisted that we not be alone. My father told us to take our baths quickly and then join them. As we headed down the hallway towards the washroom, my sister sprinted ahead of me and stood in the doorway. "I'll go first," she said. "I won't be long," she laughed. I stomped my foot but said nothing as the door closed. On the best of days, there was barely enough warm water for everyone in our family to bathe. With the heat going out, there was likely only enough warm water for a single bath. My sister knew this. I bounced from one foot to the other as I stood outside the door trying to keep warm. I heard her draw the water and then began singing softly to herself as she dipped into the water. After a few minutes, the singing had stopped, and I began to fear that she had fallen asleep in the tub, when I heard a noise, a sharp clacking noise like someone was wearing wooden shoes. It was slow, but deliberate, almost like it was sneaking up on something. I knocked on the door, and the clacking stopped. No answer. I assumed my sister was just ignoring me or possibly trying to irritate me, as she often did. Then the noise began again, this time even slower. I pressed my ear to the door and held my breath. The clicking noise had stopped, but I could now hear light tingling sound like the chime of 100 bells playing in the distance. I listened until I could hear my own heartbeat. Then I heard a soft splash. She hadn't fallen asleep. She was playing a game, waiting to see how long I would stand out in the cold hallway while she turned her fingers and toes into warm prunes. I knocked again, louder this time. Still no answer. I was quite frustrated and cold by this time, and so, without another knock, I swung open the door and stepped inside. As I did, the power in our building went out. The hallway behind me plunged into total darkness, and I heard my mother give out a cry of fright. I blinked my eyes a few times. The small heater in the corner of the washroom cast an eerie orange glow across the room. Feeling my way until my eyes adjusted, I stepped around the curtain at the end of the tub and began to scold my sister for taking too long. Then I saw it. It was standing beside the tub. Though it was hunched over, it must have stood nearly 7 feet tall, with its horns adding another foot or so. Coarse black fur like the pelt of a goat covered its body. It had powerful legs that ended in hooves, the source of the clicking noise. A thick tail whipped through the air behind it like a cobra circling its prey. Heavy chains wrapped around its muscular shoulders and torso. As it inhaled and exhaled, the chains produced their bell-like chimes. Yellowed eyes that burned with smoldering rage stared down from above its twisted nose. A wheezing, bubbling sort of breath passed between its fangs and its incisors, that extended so far from its mottled gums that I don't believe it could have possibly closed its mouth completely. A long, pointed tongue hung down past its scarred and disfigured chin like some grotesque dog, and thick globulates of spittle collected at the corners of its mouth. One of these globulates broke free and fell into the tub. I looked down and saw its hands, long and hairless. Each finger ended in a sharp nail that was wrapped in the same kind of corpulent skin as a vulture's bald head. The result of too much exposure to rotting flesh. Then I noticed the thin wisps of hair floating up between its fingers. My sister's hair. The beast was holding her head under the water. I screamed. Only at this point did it look at me. It was not alarmed, but rather seemed almost whimsically bemused, as if I was asking it a riddle that it already knew the answer to. Looking directly at me, it stood up to its full height, its horns now brushing the ceiling. As it stood, it lifted my sister out of the water. My screams caught in my throat as I began to choke. It held her with a single hand, each of its 5 sharp nails having pierced completely through her body. Strangely, the only coherent thought that passed through my mind at that moment was the hope that my sister had already drowned and could not feel the pain. So it, did the old poke a finger through the whole body. Yeah. The beast took a step towards me and gave a dry, shrill laugh that sounded like an animal being strangled. It held my sister out as if it was cruelly offering her body to me. Then we both heard the footsteps in the hallway. My parents were running to see what was the matter. The beast quickly wrapped its heavy chains around my sister's lifeless body and cinched her to its back. Then, with surprising agility, it threw open the window and leapt onto the narrow ledge. It balanced there for a moment and then turned to look at me one last time. Our eyes met. In that moment, it burned the full horror of itself into my very soul. Then it leapt from the ledge and disappeared. My parents were already in the washroom before I realized that the beast was gone. They held me tight and began asking what was the matter. I could not speak, but only pointed towards the tub, then the window. My mother was the first to notice my sister's clothes were laying beside the tub, and instantly ran to the open window. I heard her scream curses in our old language at the darkness, then she collapsed. My father ran to her, begging for someone to tell him what was going on. My mother was near to fainting, and could only point out the hoof-like prints in the snow on the ledge and speak a single word, Krampus. I do not remember much after that. 4 days later, my sister's body was found by a sewer grate. There was no investigation, no arrest made. To this society, she was just another dead immigrant child, no different in their eyes than the drowned sewer rat. Not that it mattered much. No manhunt would ever turn that creature up, which was not a man. I am old now. Over the years, I have seen all of my friends from that hellish ghetto die, some of them in horrible accidents. Yet I have always found some measure of peace with every one of their deaths. I do realize that death is inevitable, but there is one fact that keeps me from finding peace in my sister's death. When the police officer came to visit my family, he said that my sister had only been dead an hour before they had found her body.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, that's rough. That is rough. Now, before you lead on with your last story, I want to make a plea to anyone who listens to this. This is the most important part of the show. So we've had this whole virus going on that's shut down a lot of shops and put a lot of people's well-being at jeopardy. So if you have any last-minute shopping to do, look around and find that locally owned little shop. You know, don't go to one of the bigger places. They're doing fine. Don't go to Amazon. You know, go to that locally owned little shop. Get your gift from someone in your community who could use your help. You know, be a patron of your local community. That needs to happen. All right, enough of my soapbox.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And for those of you who don't know, there's another podcast that Jared does called the Twas Happy Hour. His most recent show highlighted all of our local
probably not
shops.
all of them.
Probably not all, but a lot of our local shops to give you some ideas
Yeah.
of what's out there. I wasn't even aware of some of them.
Yeah, matter of fact, I know I forgot a few. And one of the places is, if you're listening to this show and you're local, the Tooele Valley Wellness Community Center. It's going to be changed to the Tooele Marketplace soon, but it is a local shop where they sell a lot of craft made stuff. They've got a lady that sells soaps, a lady that sells crystals, a lady that there's a little cafe in there. There's it's called Bears and Pals. They've got the stuff to where, like, when you go to Build-A-Bear and Build-A-Bear, it's just like that, but they have more than just bears in there. But go and check it out, you know, and the sandwiches at that cafe are fantastic. They're off the charts. Cafe. Yep, Karma Cafe. Go in there, you know, tell them I said hi, check out their wares. Regardless, it's a fun place to go, and it's just local people who you know, rent a room and sell stuff. And even if you're from a little further out, like maybe Salt Lake City, you can go in there and check it out. It's at the old hospital here in Tooele, where it's actually the old nursing home side of it, where they've just opened up all the old rooms into little people can rent these rooms and use them as a business. They've got a thrift store in there, so if you want to donate stuff, you can go down to the thrift store. They take smaller items. They don't obviously do furniture and bigger items because of the limited space they have, but yeah, go and check it out. It's a cool walkthrough. Grab a sandwich at the Karma Cafe, and I, for one, really enjoy their sandwiches.
Yeah, super cool.
Yes.
So tonight,
your sound went weird. There we go.
We're going to end the show tonight with a poem, which is kind of the most modern take on Krampus. So my screen's going to go black for a second.
Yes, it is.
So, 'twas the night before Christmas, and deep in our bunker, my mom, dad, and sister, I did hunker. The streetlights were dark, no carolers sang, not even the blessings of church bells rang. And beneath our beds we all huddled tight and hoped he would pass by our house tonight. Everyone knows of jolly Saint Nick and the gifts he brings on his single night trick, and the presents and baubles and candies and toys, and he brings every Christmas to good girls and boys. But it wasn't the man with red suit and white beard whose annual Christmas visit we feared. Outside in the snow we heard a loud howl, a crunching of ice and an animal growl. I heard it sniff by our window pane when a throaty laugh and saw red eyes like flame. My sister and I both stared horrified and prayed that the creature could not get inside. But a moment later a thundering pound turned our doors to splinters and all over the ground. I screamed as the creature into our home came, this horrible beast, von Krampus by name. He was massively tall, at least 7 feet, from the points of his horns to the hoof-shodden feet. Across his back, what I mistook for a coat, was the shaggy long hair of a filthy dead goat. And I cried and I swallowed my terrified pangs at the sight of his wickedly razor-sharp fangs. His claw-fingered hands looked ready for pain. In one was a bullwhip, the other a chain. He growled and sneered and laughed for a while. Then he pointed at us and said, "Naughty," with a smile. My sister and I both shook with fear. What terrible things had we done this year? We tried to be good and thought we'd succeeded. We minded our manners, no punishment needed. We both made good grades, neither one lied or cheated or stole. We had nothing to hide. But Krampus still came with his evil heart black to steal us away, stuff us in his sack, to take us away to his punishment cave, where all the bad children forever his slaves. We turned to our parents, behind them to hide, but they both shook their heads and sadly stepped aside. You must face the music, my father lamented. Von Krampus then laughed, his expression demented. My sister and I hugged each other tight and prayed that someone could save us that night. And just when we gave up and all hope was gone, there came a loud clatter from out on the lawn. With tinkle of bells our spirits did lift. Von Krampus snarled, the air he did sniff. On the wind came the scent of holly and pine, of gingerbread cookies and holiday wine. In the doorway he stood, in his suit of bright red. St. Nicholas came, we cried out and said, "Save us, St. Nicholas, there's been a mistake. We've been good all year. You can't let him take." "Hold on, not so fast." He raised his great hand. "There is something happening you don't understand. Von Krampus did come, that much is true. But the demon of Christmas did not come for you." At the demon we stared, both of us confused. He had to be here for somebody, but who? Then I started to think, and all became clear. Who'd been the naughtiest of all that year? Well, Mommy drank vodka by pitchers and glasses, and Daddy cheated on his taxes. And Mommy spent far too much time on her hair, and Daddy had something that he called an affair. And Mommy spent all of my birthday money. And Daddy had what he called a secret honey. The more I thought, the more I understood. We children were fine, but the parents, no good. But Krampus takes children, my father protested. And Santa's face twisted toward the man he detested. Christmas time is for children and gifts to be given. You took their innocence, and that can't be forgiven. You scared them into silence, their souls you did twist, and to top it off, told them I didn't exist. For your lifelong naughtiness, the piper must be paid, and set Krampus upon them with a dismissive wave. The adults screamed as they went into his sack, and we cried until Santa patted my back. We are, I sniffed, sincere as could be, but what is to become of my sister and me? St. Nicholas smiled and laughed loud and deep, as did Krampus, a sound that still haunts my sleep. While you'll come with me, he said with great joy, I have great use for a girl and a boy. So
that's not a happy story either. Santa's kind of a bastard.
So, listen, parents, you better be like, Christmas is only a couple days away. You better be like repenting.
Didn't that whole cheating on the taxes thing, didn't that give him some credit with Santa Claus?
It should have, yes.
Yeah.
It should have.
All right, real quick, we'll go through the chats. All right. So Laura says, I love Broomhilda.
Yeah, my kids will tell you about
Yeah.
They were completely like astonished.
Well,
there
Mom
wasn't actually a Broomhilda.
Mom scared us with her mom.
Oh yes.
And she couldn't scare us with our dad's mom because, there wasn't no punishment to happen there.
No.
And then she also says, I used to tell my girls the vacuum would suck up anything. So if they didn't clean their room, I would just start the vacuum outside their door. So she scared them with the vacuum.
That would be scary.
Yeah. Yeah, it would. It would. And then Misty mentioned the Home Alone, the way that Krampus movie should have gone. I think I'm going to have to rewrite that.
Absolutely.
Laura said
Can Krampus, can he have a kryptonite?
Well,
I don't know what it is. Maybe gingerbread cookies?
9mm bullets.
Anything.
Yeah. Then Laura says again, she thinks her mom wrote this. Apparently her mom was scary. Rebecca Maurer says, if the Santa Cam and Naughty List doesn't whip you into shape this year, she's going to put up a goat demon cam so he can watch you plump up, getting ready for him to eat you.
That's what I'm saying. We got to start a movement.
Well, here's the question. Now, I know that Becky would not do this to either of her grandchildren. So are you saying that I need the goat demon cam? Because I've been a good boy this year. I haven't cheated on my taxes.
At all.
Yeah, that's it. I've been a good boy. I have been a good boy. But everyone, thanks for watching. Let's see. We should probably update and see if there's...
Krampus is terrifying. The idea that they've created a demon to scare children into behaving, that's scary stuff. Because can you imagine, long before internet and video games and public school, these kids 100% believed this.
Oh,
they had no sounding board.
Well, yeah, they should have. And Rebecca, true to form, she's already given the presents to the grandkids, of course. Yeah, she'll end up being like our grandma.
Yeah, It's inevitable, Becky. It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
You're gonna be Grandma Cookie any day.
Well, you're the same way, Betsy, so I don't know what you're
Perhaps.
talking about. And me, I'm still waiting on mine to show up. One day he will bless me with a grandchild, and then I can spoil that child rotten and shake him up and give him back. Yeah, I can be Grandpa Cookie. But yeah, thanks for joining us, everyone. Have a Merry Christmas.
Behave yourselves. There's bad things afoot out there. Think twice when you're, being bad parents, I guess.
Well, we know that all of our listeners have been angelic.
Yeah,
but yeah, have a Merry Christmas.
All saints of listeners.
Yes. Shop local. If you got any last minute things, say you want to just get boxes of candy for your neighbors for those leave on the doorstep Christmas morning stuff. Hit it local, help people out. And
Your local face, because a lot of people are selling things not even from their shop but from their home. My daughter-in-law Michaela showed up tonight, and that's what she got us was baked goods that were locally baked. And just source local where you can. People are really struggling this year, so anything you can do to help. If you're going to spend it anyway, spend it in your community. Yep.
Buy that novelty thing. I know I did pretty okay on spending locally. A little bit of my Christmas shopping was done a little bit earlier this year. Don't fall over in shock. I know normally my Christmas shopping's done on the 26th, but
couldn't do this tonight because you would be shopping.
Well, no, I wouldn't be shopping yet. I would be shopping later this. I would be shopping on Saturday normally, but I don't know. Things just happened this year. I think it had a lot to do with the other podcasts that got me out and got me interacting more with the community. But if you want to know, it's called the Tooele Happy Hour, but there are a lot of neat shops here in Tooele. There's some boutiques. You got Sweet Salt. You've got Shine.
Lee's Boutique.
Yeah, you've got Another Man's Treasure. If you're looking for that an interesting gift, you got everything up at the Tooele Valley Wellness Center. Looking for game boards and stuff, you've got Game Haven down there by the Cow Ranch there, between Lucky's and Cow Ranch. Melina's or Melanie's, is it Melanie's or Melina's? It's like a health store where they've got kind of like little gift packs for feet, lady stuff and smell good stuff down there. You've got just try to find somewhere that's here, that's local, that could use a little bit of your support. Granted, we haven't been hit hard out here with shutdowns and stuff, but still, everybody's feeling a little bit of a financial pinch, and there's a lot of stress going on. So, help each other out, get that community going.
And I hope everyone has a fantastic holiday.
Yeah, no Krampus. We got just old Saint Nick coming, or I don't know who else comes for other religions, but just the good guys.
Just the good guys.
Just the good guys. But yeah, everyone, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for all the comments, all the interaction. We love it.
Have a great week.
Yes. Yeah, have a great week. We'll see you next week.